Mardi Gras.
Happy Mardi Gras!
Happy Mardi Gras.
And welcome to another episode of Tales from the Parade Route. So, we're in a different shot than you're used to seeing us in. Usually, you're used to seeing Kirk and I sitting in the co-captain's chair, interviewing a variety of guests. Well, for those of you who are watching this at a later time, we're going through the coronavirus lockdown right now. So
We're social distancing like everybody else in the world, I suppose.
yeah, so we have set up a Google Hangout between Kirk and I, and we thought that something good that we could do would be cover Mardi Gras. I mean, while there was a few nicks on Mardi Gras this year, shall we call them?
No pun intended there.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So for starters, obviously, with the coronavirus lockdown stuff, one of the things that's come up has been, was it foolish, I guess, for New Orleans to continue to hold Mardi Gras when the pandemic was kind of getting into swing.
Well, I guess in retrospect, you could say, yeah, that was foolish. But frankly, nobody in the world was canceling anything at that time. And if the mayor tried to shut down Mardi Gras then, all hell would have broken loose. You don't just shut down Mardi Gras. So,
right.
In retrospect, yes, obviously. But,
hey, should we
go on? And it did. So,
yeah, if we could go back in time with, Doc Brown's DeLorean, yeah, it probably would be in best interest to say, hey, there's some strange things afoot with this virus that's going around. Maybe we do need to call this off just to be on the safe side.
Yeah, but, I'm looking at the bright side. There's a lot of thought out there saying that, maybe many of us may have been exposed. Hell, if anybody got exposed, I would assume we did. So most of us probably have antibodies already.
Yeah, with the amount of parades that we went to, it was out there. We probably caught it and somehow recovered. I would have to assume.
I would assume there was tens of thousands along the route that did. So, at least now we're good. We have antibodies. Well, we should. And I've also, the other good thing I've heard stemming from this is there's the rethinking of having everything out on one central route, uptown. Like they're thinking about putting things back into individual neighborhoods, which to me would be great. It would split up the crowd, thin them out, somewhat, and just make it more traditional like it used to be all over town,
Yeah, it would split it up to where each neighborhood would have their own, and the crowds wouldn't be so condensed. That's one thing that I did notice this year.
It's outrageous.
In conjunction with the other black eye, with the unfortunate situations that happened where two people got run over by floats during the parades, and there was talk of a third one that got pulled out from underneath a float just in the nick of time.
Right. Which is crazy. No spectator has died at Mardi Gras since 1981.
Right.
Which to me is surprising in itself. Hell, it's almost 40 years. But for almost 3 to happen on the same year is just crazy. But that has to do with the size of the crowds. I mean,
yeah, the size of the crowds, and I mean, we were out there for all three of those parades. Well, 2 of the 3 parades.
Right.
We had missed Endymion just because by the time we had finished up uptown and all that, we were exhausted that day.
But we still went to Canterbury, saw them bring back the parade.
Yeah, so we were at 2 of those parades, and I'll say that when the crew of Knicks rolled, it was a beautiful parade for that 22 floats or whatever that we saw. But one thing that I will point out is that and it was no fault of the crews. It was there was something in the air that night to where even by us, I would go so far as to say the crowd was almost in a frenzy. You
Yeah.
know, it was like, and I think that it was partially because like that's really the beginning of that long haul to Mardi Gras.
Oh yeah, that's yeah,
Knicks had just
absolutely.
announced that they were the uh, official largest crew rolling in Mardi Gras that year.
Right.
Um,
Well, they have great
and
signature throw, and they
yeah,
clamor for that, and it's a pretty parade. It brings people out. It was a good night. For once, it wasn't raining for Knicks.
yeah,
You know,
yeah. That was
so,
and um, I mean the unfortunateness of that
yeah.
incident. I mean, again, Doc Brown's time machine. I wish that I could had it to where we could help save a life.
Yeah,
Use
I don't
that.
want to stay on the subject too long, but I want to say my hats off to Julie, the captain of Knicks. When the moment she heard, she jumped off the float. That was just more important things than the parade to her. So,
Yeah,
uh, hats off to her, and I'm glad that they brought a little of it back to Metairie to follow Pandora.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, I know she pours her heart and soul into those parades all year long, and to just drop everything and just see what she could do, I thought was wonderful.
yeah.
So
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, like you said, we don't want to harp on just the negatives of the
yeah,
parades.
they had to be
Um,
said. It is part of the.
yeah,
It was part of what it was this year. It
um,
was a weird one this year, though.
yeah. I mean, the last little piece related to that, when the second accident happened, they had declared that there was no more tandem floats,
Yeah,
and that really made a lot of parades scramble to get uh,
drivers.
drivers and
Yeah.
tractors.
Oh, they were
And
paying guys like 1,500, $2,000 to drive a tractor for a parade.
yeah,
Nobody wanted to do it.
plus they were having to, uh, in some cases, rework the float essentially.
Yeah.
Like with Orpheus, you've got some of
Mhm.
those tandem floats to where, like Smoky Mary, all of those floats
Yeah, what is
have
that,
the
nine
same
cars?
sounds. Yeah, it's like 8 or 9 cars, and they're all synced up with sound and lighting and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden to say, yeah, you're not going to be able to connect up your sound system because there's going to be like 30 feet between each float with a
Yeah,
tractor in the
that was
mix.
strange. You could do it. I know ways, but yeah, it was too quick. That was what, 2 days later. So
Yeah.
they were probably more worried about just getting them powered up and working on their own. So, but
Again, I'd say hats off to all of the captains that were affected with that change to where,
yeah, they didn't even ask. They just kind of went with it, and that was it.
yeah.
To me, that was a little bit of a knee jerk reaction. You
Yeah,
know, but
I do agree that there could be things changed to avoid those situations.
yeah,
And one of the things that you'd mentioned to where there's a lot more talk of moving more of the crews to back to their
yeah,
neighborhoods is going to help. I think
yeah. I
that a
think you'll
lot.
see a bit of a redesign of floats where, for some reason in my head, I remember when. I don't remember if it's just something I always wonder why it isn't there or not. I remember when tandem floats really started going, there wasn't like, the connection in the middle.
Okay, so we were talking about the beginning of tandem floats.
Yeah, so I kind of remember them having like a drapery in the middle of them. Like you didn't see the connecting pieces so that when they were being pulled straight, it just looked like one long float rather than a bunch of segments. Do you
Right.
recall
Yeah.
that at all, or is that my imagination?
No, I kind of remember that.
Mhm. To me,
I
that would
mean,
stop it.
yeah, that's one of the things that I know. There's been a couple different solutions
Hmm.
presented related to them to where, like, it would be someone walking next to the floats, which we
Yeah.
see that in a couple parades.
Right.
I think we see it a little bit in Orpheus, and then we see it a little bit in I think Druids does it,
Okay.
where they'll have like
That used to be a fairly
someone.
common thing. It was always Navy or some
Right.
guys would,
Yeah, yeah.
be
It
doing
would
it.
be some sort of armed forces
Right.
or a security dressed official.
Hmm.
But yeah, either someone walking with the floats, or as simple as just that orange mesh stuff that you see
Yeah.
blocking off like an area that just got reconcreted,
Yeah. Or
or
quite simply, don't walk in the middle of tandem floats.
yeah,
Easier said than done. I know because like somebody, you're looking up at somebody and they're the last on that float, you kind of turn into it. And I've been, like, oh, wait, I mean, I've been surprised a couple of times. So
yeah,
I can't say it's just bonehead, but, I don't know. To me, it's an overreaction. And, as horrible as it is, I don't want to see any deaths on the street, of course. But
obviously, yeah,
some of those floats were just ridiculous, not being a tandem,
yeah,
like the Bakagator tail rolling down the street on its own to me is just weird.
yeah. That one, I mean, like we had said, Smoky Mary seemed a little bit off to where
Well,
you
those
saw
are at
the
least individual cars where it makes a little sense, but yeah, and then or all the ducks being pulled separately for muses.
yeah, that would be weird. Um, yeah, so I don't I don't think that necessarily um banning tandem floats. I think that you could make a cover per se
Yeah,
for in between those floats to where
I think they've already repealed that ordinance, whatever. So it's just a matter of what's going to be the fix.
right,
You
and
know,
yeah, I'd assume that they haven't really had a whole ton of time to talk about that with
yeah.
everything that
But
we're in
I'm
right
sure all
now.
the
But
float decorators and all are going to get together and be like, "Hey, this is what we've come up with," and they'll probably squish it pretty quickly, I would think.
yeah,
And
well, I'm hearing talk even. We had mentioned, would we have canceled Mardi Gras had we known? Today, I saw something in the news about uh, the mayor said that her recommendation would be for even all of these festivals, like Jazz Fest and,
yeah,
uh, you know,
but Jazz Fest would be pretty soon here,
right. Yeah. It
so
would be like, what, I think this weekend.
a couple weeks away. Yeah, well, it's what the last
Uh,
weekend of April.
yeah. So, like in 2 weeks, it would be.
Right. So yeah, I could see that one, but like they're talking about Essence and
Yeah. But they're
basically
talking about just like
everything.
straight up canceling,
Right.
even though that they're rescheduled to, later in the fall when, we all hope that the pandemic is receded per se,
Yeah.
or that the
Or at least we figure out a way to make sure you're good to go or whatever and get back to life.
maintain the uh the spread of it,
Right.
to where it's limited, like there may be some people that would have to be in a limited
Yeah.
outside exposure or what have you.
Sure.
But there's talk of all these festivals that were supposed to be going on now that have rerouted to the fall. They're talking about no festivals for the rest of 2020,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
then brings up the question: do they, try and do a limit on Mardi Gras in some fashion?
Well, I don't know. I think that's long way away. I think we'll be long past all this by then. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw half the crowd as we did this year. But the show's going to go on. They've canceled Mardi Gras once, and nobody's ever forgave them for it. So
Right?
it was
Yeah.
the policeman strike in what, the late 70s around there.
Yeah, I think it was 1980.
Okay, so I don't see that ever happening again. Unless there's some viable real thread, I just don't see it. That's part of who we are, and chances are we'd do it anyway.
Right.
We're stubborn fools, and we're used to sheltering in place like this. It feels like a hurricane to me. It's what I've been telling everybody.
Yeah, it's just a long hurricane right now.
Yeah, like come on already and pass.
So, we talked about the negative stuff. There was a lot of good stuff that happened with Mardi Gras this year.
Tremendous. I mean, why the hell else do we go?
Yeah, one thing that I thought was really special that we had talked about it briefly off air. One of the things that added a lot of specialty to this Mardi Gras is all the great people that we've met along the way doing all of these episodes. Where it's like there's a few of the people that we were knowledgeable of, or that we knew in some affair. Like obviously, I've ridden in Excalibur for a few years, so I know who Missy is ahead of time. A couple of the dance groups that we had in, there was different people within those groups that I was familiar with, that I've either been friendly with or had a passing knowledge of or whatever. So, but even more so this year, now that we met more and more people from all these different great groups, and learning more of the history of it, to where when you'd see, like a float that we talked about on the show, with somebody, to see that float, it almost gave, as goofy as it sounds, it almost gave you like a little bit of like goosebumps.
The handicap accessible float, first one ever in Tux this year. He told us they were going to do that. In fact, he broke the news on Tales.
To us,
awesome. Yeah. So I was glad to see him do that. But I didn't realize they were actually pulling it off this year. And when I saw it roll by, I was like, all right, they did it. So.
Yeah. One of the things also that was really cool was that we had even more familiarity with some of the signature throws, to where like we had been to Moon Pie, it felt like, a few times at that point, and we didn't know about this. We didn't know about the ceramic Moon Pie.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. If you watch the show with Moon Pie, they made me ride a unicycle for that, and I got it in earlier that day and hadn't ridden it in 20 years.
Yeah, that day. I remember when we went to the that day, the parade or the unicycle got to my house because for some reason I ordered it instead of you. I think it was because like you didn't have Prime at the time or something.
Oh, that's what it was. I think. Yeah, I couldn't get it quick enough.
So I ordered it, and I got it on Saturday at like noon, and the parade was Saturday at like 6:00. So it came in within like 30 minutes. You were at my house. I had it about halfway built, and we finished building it, and we put air in the tires, and you proceeded to take it for a test ride out in the front yard.
I can't believe I didn't kill my ass.
Yeah.
I actually took to it okay. I didn't realize what a leg workout that was. Man, I was hurting for days after that.
Well, I know there's been a couple times since then that you've ridden on the unicycle.
I'll take it out for a spin once in a while.
For your birthday, early on in the lockdown, I saw that you were doing like a bike race with your neighbor's kid.
Well, he had just started to learn how to ride a bike, and he's like, "I'm gonna race you," and I'm like, "Bring it on, sucker!" Well, of course, I'm on a unicycle. He smoked me, but he had been riding a bike for all of 2 days by then.
So let's see. let's start off, I guess, at the very beginning
Mhm.
of the parade season, which of course is King's Day with Funny
Well,
40 Fellow.
I mean, it's not a parade, but Moon Pie, I guess, was our first
Yeah.
actual one this
Yes.
year.
Moon Pie was our first parade this
Mhm.
year. And yeah, we had a blast at the parade
I
as
love it.
always.
That one's great, especially having met them, and it was fun to begin with. But once we met them and got to kind of see them lining up and celebrating with them a little bit, that was even more fun.
Yeah, and we even got to catch the parade twice.
Oh yeah,
If you remember, we went around the corner from
we were
where
locked in.
we caught it like right at the beginning, and then we were
Mhm.
pretty much blocked in. So we were
Yeah.
like, well, hell, let's just wait and watch it again.
At that point, I don't think I had caught a vanilla moon pie yet, so or one of the flavors I didn't have. Maybe it wasn't a banana I didn't have. Like, we got to go back.
Yeah. So yeah, we caught the parade twice, had a blast, and yeah, that was a fun time. I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah.
Hopefully everything can clear up, and
That would be
I know
early.
that they were
one
talking
we might have
about
to
like
worry about.
that they were talking about late in the summer, early in the fall, that they were going to be doing something at. I know they did something earlier on, like just after Mardi Gras,
Mhm.
or right around Mardi Gras, over at movie studios. But they were talking about
Okay.
doing something else. I thought,
Yeah, the prop house.
yeah. So
Yeah,
it'd
but
be
that one's
interesting to see
early
what.
on. That's not in the season, so that one we might have to worry about. I wouldn't be surprised if that one didn't roll this year, but we'll see. Maybe they'll push it back toward the season.
Yeah.
And I know they really like that new date, so hopefully they get to roll.
One other highlight with them was this year they had a group that I don't recall seeing any of the other times. They had a group that had like a whole dance routine using lawn chairs.
Oh yeah, I totally forgot about them. That was something you see at a Pelicans game or something weird halftime show. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a just like you see Dance Connection or
Yeah.
the Pussyfooters or Rue La La or the Sirens. It was a group that they were walking. Their whole shtick was that they had lawn chairs, like folded old school, like those lattice work lawn chair. Like
Yeah.
where it's made out of like that polyester or whatever
Yeah, just
stuff
aluminum.
latticed together.
Mhm. The ones
And
that
yeah,
dry rot and you fall through.
yeah, and they did a whole dance with them.
Mhm. Yeah, I forgot all about them. That was funny.
Let's see. So then the next step would be Funny 40 Fellows.
Yeah.
We went to Funny 40 Fellows and
Met at
saw
Streetcar Barn.
we went to the streetcar barn, which that was my first time doing in years.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's much different than seeing them on the route, and it's
Yeah.
a good crowd there. They actually select their king there traditionally at that point. That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
Yeah, the Boston Queen.
Mm, met Peggy LaBoy. She was awesome.
Yeah.
Very receptive.
And we got to see all it seemed like there was a ton of different groups that, when you think of King's Day and
Yeah.
with the Funny 40 Fellows, you don't realize how many different crews have something special related to meeting at the barn
Yeah.
for Funny 40 Fellows related to their traditions as well. I mean,
Yeah, it's kind of
when we talked to like the dames, I
Mhm.
remember they said that that day is always when they release their theme,
Mhm.
and
There's a
they
bunch of
always
them
do
that I
something
like.
over at the barn.
Mhm.
That
Well,
a
they
bunch
made
of them
their
meet there.
they make theirs public that day. There's I
Right.
think the crew knows early on so they can get started with their beadwork and all that. But
Yeah, I mean, it takes the whole year.
Sure.
I remember seeing some of the girls posting on their Facebook saying, you know, even though I've done this X amount of years, I'm still feel like I'm working it down to the wire just because I'm always trying. They're always trying to better themselves. They're always trying to. They always see something to where it's like, ooh, I could do this little thing that'll add so much more to my costume.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was cool to see, the handful of folks that have traditions right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we went to our tradition, which is always going to Madigan's for,
Yeah.
That's our traditional spot where we usually see Funny 40 Fellows.
Yeah.
Um,
An Uptown Funky Crew.
And then Uptown Funky Crew.
Mm-hmm.
And we both caught one of their signature throws.
I've got all my treasures here.
Yeah. Yeah, mine are all in the.
Sure if you caught this one. I think it was either you or Crazy caught that one.
I think Crazy caught it. Yeah.
45.
Yeah, mine is in the.
Yeah, you got
the shrine.
Yeah, I pulled down some of my treasures. I don't remember if I got this one this year or is it last year?
That was last year.
Pretty cool. Ooh. You spoke about Rue La La.
Yeah, your Rue La La spoon.
That's awesome. I'll bring out some of the others later.
I think next would have been Bilge and Poseidon, possibly.
Yeah, I think so.
Bilge, I remember it was drizzly for the parade.
Yeah, we're a little worried about Poseidon.
Yeah. And then we went to Poseidon, and Poseidon's crowds were crazy packed.
Yeah. Which I'm real happy for him because, I mean, of course, those guys came on with us. And they actually invited us to go to the King's Stand where his family was, and we got to see the
the baby reveal
thing.
Yeah,
that was pretty funny. That's cool. Yeah, but that's a beautiful parade. I hope it continues to grow like it's doing because they really do a knockout job.
Yeah, it's an awesome parade, and I mean, like they said, they had a ton of different dance groups. They had a ton of floats, to where towards the end, it almost felt like back in the day when on like Mardi Gras Day, to where, towards the end of the truck floats, you'd be like, wow, this has been a long day.
Yeah.
This has been a long day.
That's a long parade, but they do it right. It's not just filler. It's all, it's all good.
Everything in there was top notch.
The dinosaurs are great.
Yeah, the dancing dinosaurs. Let's see. I don't remember if they had actually talked about that on the show. They had, I think they had teased. I think he teased us, or he teased it on the show, and then afterwards,
I think he
as he was, as we were walking them to their car, they had mentioned it, while we were saying our goodbyes or whatever, and that was awesome.
My wife got mad at me. I bought a whole bunch of dancing dinosaur costumes.
Yeah. For those who didn't get to go, they had it was probably like 18 or 20 people that were in those blow up costumes that were all T-Rexes. And I know that we see a good bit of them on YouTube and TikTok and all that kind of stuff, to where
things,
but it was a group of them all dancing together to like Funky Cole Medina and stuff like that.
Yeah, they were into it, man.
um, let's see. Then I think the following, or actually, I think the night before Bilge and Poseidon was when we went to see the professor and
Oh
the
yeah,
Grand Marshal
yeah.
the
At the city hall.
at Gallier Hall, yeah.
Oh, it's Gallia Hall. Yeah.
And that was an awesome experience.
You got the big king.
Yeah, I got to be king during their
Little mock ball thing. Yeah.
yeah, during their whole example. They do things. They do things to interact with the crowd.
Mm.
And at one point, they pick a king and queen, and yeah, they picked me as the king.
I'm glad I wasn't picked as the queen. I'm so glad. Because I was waiting for it, like, oh, you son of a. And then they picked the girl. I was like, all right. Those guys are kicking the ass, man. They're real
they were a blast. Let's see, Chewbacca's was somewhere in there.
Yeah, Chewbacca's. I don't know. It seems short to me this year, but it was like they got organized. It's like how'd that happen? But yeah, it's getting organized these days. But it's still huge. It's a lot of fun, and it still is homemade as it ever was. It still has that, I don't know, artsy feel to it. I want to say it, but it's not. They haven't grown to the point where it's different than it used to be. They're just
right. Yeah. It still holds its roots. With that whole sci-fi. Walking. It's like an old school neighborhood walking parade.
Yeah.
To where it almost feels like it's a half step above like a Cub Scout parade, but it's all adults and families, and it's all geek humor.
Yeah.
To where if you're not into the to that culture per se, there's a few jokes that you might not understand or whatever, but a lot of them it's perfect.
Yeah, they definitely had a lot of their it's like little doubloons, you'd say, but like they had lots of them.
Yeah,
handmade ones, and that's really cool.
Yeah, I think I got like a dozen different ones.
Yeah,
from people.
I had 6 or 7 of them. I think my dad got a few extras.
Yeah, there was quite a few of them, and that's one of the cool things with that parade is the fact that everything that you draw or everything that you throw is supposed to be handmade. It's not just stuff that you went and picked up at Beads by the Dozen or what have you.
Right.
On a similar note,
late that night.
On a similar note, TRex.
Mm-hmm.
That was another one that was great.
Yeah.
And it added a lot more, knowing, having met Janine and TRex. That was a busy day. Mm-hmm. We started off out here with Little Rascals.
Yeah.
Caught Little Rascals almost at the front. I mean, we were
pretty close, maybe.
Yeah, we were right as it turned into veterans, pretty much. Fun parade as always. Long.
Yeah, that's crazy long.
That's my one complaint with it is that it's so long, and I think that and I understand why it is.
Yeah, they let all the elementary schools have their fun,
Yeah.
Which is great, that's what it should be.
But a very long parade.
Yeah. It was nice to see so many families in it this year, though. I was kind of getting worried about that parade.
Yeah, it was nice to see. It was nice to see that change to where it wasn't just charity rides. You know what I mean?
I wasn't sure how they were affording to do it, so I was really happy they continued to do it any way they could. But it was nice to see a lot of families starting to ride again. I mean, like when I rode, it was all kids, and then it kind of transitioned to, uh, moms and dads would be on the floats with them again, and then but now it seems like whole families again, which for several years kind of wasn't the case.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So, we had a good time at that parade, and then we went out to the east.
Oh yeah,
We went out to the east for the very first rolling of the crew of Nefertiti. So, what were your thoughts on Nefertiti?
well, I kind of had in my head that they were a first year startup, but no, they had been around a few years as a non-parading crew.
Right.
And for their first year, I thought it was nice. It was very small, but what they did was it was nice, and they had a good group of the neighborhood bands in there. Um, but yeah, it could grow some, but otherwise, it's nice to see something back out in the east.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that I'll point out while their floats were simplistic,
Yeah, it's basically the maid floats from other parades.
yeah, but
More or less that kind of stepped look.
something that I want to give them tremendous props off for. The costumes that the ladies were wearing
Yeah,
were very beautiful.
yeah. Every one of them was dressed.
Yeah, the all the queens and maids and captain and all that, all their their collars and
Right.
headdresses and everything, and the dresses themselves, extremely beautiful, very flowing. I remember one or two of them. I think it was the queen that it reminded me a lot of like the beauty of the dancer girls on Coming to America. When
Okay.
like
Yeah.
all those girls come out with the feathers.
Yeah.
I mean it was, and it's a beautiful scene,
Hmm.
and to see the way that it may have just been with the way that the wind was blowing through them or whatever, but
Yeah.
it had that that beauty of that scene in my
Well, I was
mind.
kind of surprised to see like on every float. No, there was what I don't know, maybe a dozen floats. There weren't that many, but on every float, every rider was dressed up nicely, and like
Yeah,
a
they weren't just wearing
like a
like
ball
a
gown sort of thing, and then the captain of each float had, you know, it was a distinguished float. You could tell like her dress was different, but
yeah,
uh, but they were all nicely done. So yeah, and the
and
coloring book was cool. I caught I don't know, maybe like a pendant. I forget what else it was. I caught a couple of things. I was like, ooh, that's a keeper. You know?
yeah, I remember the coloring book for sure.
Yeah.
That was one of the big things that they had mentioned in the Mardi Gras guide
Hmm.
about that parade this year was look for the coloring books.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and I remember the pendant that you caught. How yeah,
Yeah. It was a
it
nice
was a
hand
well done
painted.
paint,
Mhm.
well painted and all that. Um,
Yes, he could grow, but I thought what they had was real nice, and hell, I wish him all the luck because that's not an easy thing to do to start a parade like that. You know.
yeah, at first going into it, I was a little disappointed because I was hearing talk that some of the dance groups, I guess, uh, they had canceled them off at the last minute, and I'm not sure
Yeah,
what the
I'm not.
situation
Yeah,
was with it. I'd assume that it was just, hey, we were expecting a bigger riding budget, and
yeah.
money's
Well,
just
I
got
think
limited or what have you. I
the
mean,
number of floats had gone down from like the publishing of the guides, and even I want to see the tracker was saying 13, 14 floats, something like that, and they ended up being 8 or 9. So I think they
yeah,
were expecting a lot more people to go ahead and do the ride, which, but it's a few hundred member crew. Uh, Obviously, not many of them rode, but hopefully next year they'll be able to do more.
yeah. I look forward to future rides from them, and I hope that they'll come and talk with us.
Oh yeah, that
Coming
was
up
neat.
on this year, or the next year that they parade, if they decide to take a year off, I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't know their plans. And like we said, with the situation that we're in right now, things may get weird. With I know that a lot of people are out of work right now.
Yeah. Right.
Little things like that may affect the size of several crews. I hope that it doesn't kill off any crews.
That one, I assume, since it's a non-parading crew, that's all locals. There's so many parades that rely on a lot of people that come from out of town. Mardi Gras tourists, for instance, that come in riding in a parade, and so they don't get the benefit of that. I don't think right now, but hopefully soon, and that expands your ability to draw people in the ride for sure.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that all of this lockdown stuff ends soon, so that it doesn't impact some of these smaller parades.
Give people a chance to financially catch up and start over. I know. I know that the float builders they're all in full swing. They're expecting to go next year, or at least they're making every attempt to, keep it going if it's logical to do so.
Yeah. And then the last parade that we went to that day was TRex, where we caught a lot more of the small throws this year than we caught in previous times. I remember a ton of themed, very well themed with their float. I remember getting a little French bread to where it was, about a little bit bigger than a toothpick in length. And it was, it was looked like a little snake that you'd make out of Play-Doh in width, in length and width and all that.
I thought it was like a pretzel or something like that. It was like some clay like that, like permanent.
No, I think that it was, like you said, a pretzel or something to where they preserved it in some fashion.
Yeah, I got that. Well, I found it on the ground. They had the float maker in front of the Hard Rock, and the little blue piece of tarp, I don't know, 1 inch square, and it said Tarp ADM on it.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
Let's see. There was one of them that was related to priests, and the float handlers for that one were handing out hosts.
Yeah.
Like Eucharist hosts.
Yeah.
That had the schwa on it.
Right. I kept a couple of them.
And then they made one. They had one that was a small, teeny one made out of like a piece of paper, to where it was maybe half the diameter of a dime.
Oh, geez.
And it looked like a little host, and had the schwa on it.
You took a hole punch and made something.
Essentially, yeah. I'm forgetting. I know I'm forgetting some of the crazy things that I caught. A small pack of straws, where you draw straws, and it's all like little straws that are, I guess, made out of like a cocktail straw.
Yeah,
but they're all cut short to where they're only like 2 inches long, and then one of them's like 1.5 inches long.
That was a little flat. I believe they were making fun of the plastic ban on straws or something along those lines.
So we have a bunch of pictures from Mardi Gras that I am going through on my computer, and I hope to be able to post a lot of them to where people can see some of these tales that we're talking about. The next day would be a big one for us. It would be our ride day.
Valentine's Day this year.
Yeah. So we went in as we had talked about on the show, the signature throw of Excalibur is the shield.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I walked in each with, like, I think I had 70.
40 something. You had a good bit more than I did.
And I also had a bunch of them that I had made to distribute in the crew.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we had a good bit of them that were on our float, but there was a handful of folks from other floats as well that were like, "Ooh, yeah, we want to throw some."
Yeah.
I'm hoping that if you're watching this and you caught one of our shields, that you will go and share your shield on our Facebook page. The crew has a Facebook page called Share Your Shield. So if you caught a shield, take a picture of it with you, next to your mantelpiece or whatever, and post it and share it so that everybody can see it. Because I know that there's a handful of mine that I didn't get to take pictures of just because there was some of them that we literally were working on the day before the parade.
Oh, yeah, like at 1 a.m, the day before the parade.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a last handful that we were like, ooh, wait, this part, to where we knew someone special would be at that parade, and we knew that we hadn't made a special shield for them. So we wanted to make something, that had an appropriate salute for them.
Yeah. And also, if you don't go to Share Your Shield, you could always paste it in the background for wrestling interviews.
Yeah. The local wrestling federation, Wildcat, I brought them a shield, I think the day before our parade or a few days before the parade. And like two or 3 days after the parade, I saw them doing some backstage commentary on Facebook with the shield right in the middle. And I immediately did a huge cheer for it.
I don't know if I ever saw you that happy before.
Yeah, it was so awesome to see. It was so awesome. Go and check them out as well if you haven't seen them. I was sad that actually I missed one of their events while we were at TRex and Nefertiti. That
Probably
was the event.
The most famous of them all. At this
that
point.
was the event where one of their guys, PJ Hawks, went on the second story of the Esplanade Mall, I guess it was the food court area where they have that big opening, and he dove off of the balcony into the ring onto a group of guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, as we were at the parade, I was getting texts from friends that were at that event saying, "Dude, you missed it! You missed it!"
I remember your first text come in. You're like, "Something big happened at Wildcat." I'm like, "What could that possibly be?" And then all of a sudden, we started seeing everybody posting the video. We're like, "Oh man!"
Yeah. And from what I understand, the last number that I'd heard was somewhere around like 30 million views of it on.
Oh, wow.
Like the mixture of YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook.
Well, ESPN put it on.
Yeah, it was on ESPN. It was on, I think, pretty much all of the local news outlets picked it up and were like, whoa, how did the local wrestling guys get this worldwide viral video going?
Well, the shield gave him strength, apparently.
It did. It must have. It must have.
He felt invincible with a shield now.
Yeah. So our parade, we had lots of shields out there. Mm-hmm. We threw lots of shields. Threw all kinds of stuff.
Of course, everybody's favorite catch.
Yes, we had.
If you can see it.
Yeah. Kirk and I had a set of 6 poker chips that we had made. There was let's see, three of them with our Tails logo without the actual text on it, and the backgrounds were purple, green, and gold. And then we had one with the cruise theme on it, and then we had a pink one with Valentine's, and then tell them about the special one.
So when I ordered the pink ones, they said, well, what other color you want? You get some for free. I'm like, ooh, give me the green ones. So I made you your own pickle ones because, well, you deserved your own doubloon. But I didn't keep them. So like all the doubloon traders after were like, well, why didn't you have the pickle one? I was like, well, I'm not pickle. That's pickle. Right?
Yeah, the only person who had them was me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to go backwards here.
Yeah, so
and then one showed up on eBay and sold.
Yeah, for like $6.
Yeah.
For $6.
Who the hell bought it?
Yeah.
It's obviously one of your fans from afar.
It has to be. It has to be. So, yeah, and it became a popular one at the doubloon trades, to where, everybody came to see us because we had the Excalibur poker chips, we had Excalibur doubloons, and, we didn't get to go to Allah, Ocean, and Cleopatra that day because, we were on a parade, we were on a float.
Yeah, they wouldn't give us a swing by from the float. That would have been
cool. So they all knew that we would be interested in doing trades to get any kind of keepsakes from those parades. But
I do have a keepsake from you. That I have something for you. I thought I was giving it to you, but apparently not because I still have it here. But this is one of the signature throws from Allah.
Ooh.
Which is awesome. Which way? This way. So my dad caught these. It's pretty awesome. And then there's one for you.
Ooh.
This way. This way.
No. Yeah.
Yeah,
those are pretty.
Yeah, it's got all kinds of stuff on it. Somebody really did a nice job.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really like the move to more signature throws.
Yeah, I think at this point, almost everybody has one,
And, the more sustainable throws, too. We'll get it more into that because I want to get your take on your thoughts on throws and whatnot for this year.
Yeah.
But how would you say our ride was?
I loved it. I think we, with the cold weather and, the fact that there was Valentine's Day and, bringing your old lady to the parade. I mean, if my old lady brought me to a parade, I'd be thrilled about it. But
yeah, you'd propose to her right then and there.
So, we lost a bit of the crowd, but I had a tremendous time, of course. I mean,
yeah.
How do you not have fun riding a parade? I mean,
right. Yeah, I had a blast. Yeah, I did notice that it seemed like the crowds were a little bit light.
Yeah, it was
and
cold
I think that
night.
Yeah, I remember it being real cold that night.
Yeah.
To where like after the parade, we went to our after party, which was out by the Family Gras area, and yeah, the only reason we left early was because we were like, man, I want to get into some warmth.
Yeah. Well, plus after parade, I mean, you kind of eat and chill for a minute, but you get pretty lazy because like a parade would take it out of you. It really does. I mean, it wouldn't seem like it, but it's an exhausting thing,
Even if you're not drinking, it's an exhausting event.
So the greatest thing of all of that parade was your dumping of the crawfish sack of beads.
Oh.
I look over to my left, and all of a sudden, here comes Pickle. Boom! And it was like a 40-pound sack of beads. Some little girl tried to get out of the way. Well, she got plenty out of the way. She's like, "Ooh, look at this!" And then she tried to drag it. She couldn't even move it.
Yeah, I told her step back because like we were stopped at the time, and I couldn't get my bag open. So I was like, man, I can't get this open no matter what I tried. And the person that on our float that had the scissors, she knew someone on the other side. So she was tending to someone else, giving them their shield and, cup and so on and so forth. So I was like, here, little girl. Because I wanted to make sure that she got something. And I told her, and when I held it up, I was like, step back. And she stepped back, and I mean, it was close to the beginning to where...
Yeah, it was still unbondable, I believe.
Yeah, we were definitely still unbondable. And I was like, okay.
Well, we had so much anyway. You probably...
Yeah, we had a ton. I still left with stuff. I gave away a case of moon pies to someone, and it's not like I was throwing sparingly. No, I would take like handfuls of moon pies and just throw them. If it was like bouncy balls, I'd grab a handful of bouncy balls. Woo! So I was throwing heavily.
Oh yeah,
for the entire parade route.
We were overloaded. We were lucky that we had that little spare cutout in the float because I don't know where the hell we would have been.
Yeah.
We would have had to take part of the bathroom.
Literally. We, on our float, like they have that middle section, which is the second story. Mm-hmm. Well, we had on the back part, there was where the latrine was, and then there was a little walkway to go between the left and right sides of the float, and then on the other side was like a little alcove, and that was where we had filled in with stuffed animals and foam footballs.
Filled that sucker, man.
Yeah, it was filled to the brim. The only other thing that was in there was like 2 cases of water.
Yeah. That was a blast.
Yeah, we had a blast at the parade. I hope that everyone who went to the parade had a great time. I hope that everyone who received one of my shields enjoyed them, and I am very looking forward to our 2021 ride.
Yeah.
I've already got my deposit in, and
oh damn, you're on the ball.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've even considered trying to get them to mail me some shields.
Oh really?
So that while we're in this lockdown stuff, I can paint a bunch of them and at least get like the painting stuff done to where as it gets close, I can just, sit in front of the TV with a bunch of bejewels and stuff to put on them. But, like all the painting and the glitter stuff would be done. Right yeah. Yeah, I have a bunch of the leftover craft stuff. So I can put it to use.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if I would say if you were looking for a fun parade to ride, I can guarantee you riding in Excalibur is a great time.
If you go to New Orleans, you ought to go see the Mardi